stuff like that.
The John Denver Celebration Concert. Hear John Denver's voice and watch him perform on video screens while being backed live by members of his touring band. December 23rd at the Astor Theatre. Book your John Denver Celebration Concert tickets now from Ticketek or the Astor Theatre.
Thank God I'm a country boy, yeah!
Okay, Justin, you're set?
Yep.
Right, go for it.
G'day, I'm Justin from Fleet Spec Hire and I'm here at Point A. If you've got people or equipment on the ground here at A and you need to get them over here to B, we're your middleman and we're ready to go the extra mile to get the job done. With WA's biggest range of mine spec trucks and buses, no job's too big or small. So visit fleetspekhire.com.au. We're ready to roll.
Cool. Did you want to go again?
Nah, I nailed it.
Dell Small Business Technology Advisors know there's nothing small about your business. That's why Dell offers one-on-one partnership and tailored tech solutions with Windows 10 Pro. Visit dell.com.au/smallbusiness. Windows 10 Pro means business.
Until midnight, this is Perth Tonight with Chris Ilsley on 882 6PR.
Yeah, it must be time to catch up with Ben Aylett and talk technology, recognised by his Hawaiian shirt, and benaylett.com is the website. That's where you find all of his contact information.
That's right.
He also has more gadgetry and geekery too, and you can shake a sharp stick at.
Yeah.
Well, welcome along,
me.
my friend.
Oh, thanks very much for having me along again, Chris.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
1 week after another, you keep on letting me back in. I love it.
Oh, yeah. One great week after another. It works for us perfectly.
Works well.
Yes. Now, I'll tell you something that you posted, and I thought, I'm going to ask him about this. By the way, if you've got any technological problems, now's the time to have a chat to the man.
That's right.
Good opportunity. Got plenty of time to have a chat to you. In the meantime, I do have to ask you about this.
What's that?
You posted this on your website, and I thought, he's in the mood for a fight. NBN people power. That kind of tells me that possibly with a few of your clients, you've seen some issues with the NBN, and you've thought maybe starting a bit of a bun fight over this might work.
Yes. Now, this is actually an initiative that's popped up and it looks really, really interesting. So those of you that are catching me on the live stream, which is tiny.cc/tech tonight, you can catch me live on YouTube. I've got it showing on my page right now. It is a little initiative from Nine Finance or Nine Saver, and they're trying to get 100,000 people together to act as a collective bargaining bunch of people. So they can go to a telco as a collective and say, all right, we've got 100,000 people here willing to sign up for your service. What are you willing to offer? Which I think is just a fantastic idea. So it's just really leveraging the people power.
How much, and something I've wondered about with this, how much control in reality do the respective ISPs have over this? Bearing in mind that they're buying from the NBN. And look, I'll tell you right now, for the average consumer, it can be really difficult to know who's spinning what, where and how. So the fundamental question I want to ask you is, to what extent does each ISP, regardless of who they are, have capacity to supply the oomph that you require, and how much is capacity or lack of capacity the responsibility of the NBN via the infrastructure that it has in place, and how much is about penny pinching ISPs who don't purchase enough data allocation for the number of customers they've got, and then have been caught out in the past making promises that they arguably probably knew they couldn't keep.
All right. Well, there are so many factors involved when it comes to getting a good connection, but it does essentially boil down to ISPs allocating the right amount of bandwidth or data to a particular number of customers. So it's called contention ratios, and they might so one ISP might try and jam more people onto the same service than they do.
Well, if it does, that's going to slow down the amount for each person. It has to. It's a mathematical certainty.
Exactly. But fortunately, we're getting wise to this. We are now understanding the concept of congestion or line contention ratios, and people are now starting to shop with their feet.
So what were happening? Were they trying to basically hoodwinked people over this, were they?
It's not so much hoodwink. It's using the processes they had in place before when it came to ADSL. With ADSL...
But they knew the difference. I mean, if a guy like you knows the difference, the technical boffins who work for these companies know the difference.
Oh, yeah, the technical boffins know exactly what they're doing.
Well, doesn't anybody ask the technical boffins? I mean, if your car's broken down, you go and have a chat to the mechanic.
Yeah.
Going having a chat to the salesman who sold it to you might be a really nice and decent person, is not going to help address the problems with your car.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So surely somebody at some point asked the technical people.
Yes.
And it doesn't take technical knowledge to realise that if you have a hole of a given size and you try and increase the number of items that you're trying to put down that hole, even if it is a virtual hole, each individual hole has to get smaller.
Oh, yeah.
If the size of the original hole remains the same.
Yeah. Look at it as like a piece of, like a cake. You have a large birthday cake. You've got 20 kids all trying to scramble for it. That means it gets divided up 20 ways.
Yep. If you've got 40 kids, divided up 40 ways, but the cake does not get any bigger.
The cake doesn't change unless you go and get a bigger cake.
Yes.
Yeah. So back to the original question of the 100,000 people, what sort of weight can they throw? Well, I'm imagining this is probably the right way to go about it.
It's a group approach, isn't it? Saying, well, okay, as an individual, and how many people said to us on this program, gee, I'm an individual, do they really give a stuff about me? Well, the answer is probably as one isolated individual. Probably the short answer is no.
Well,
as a collective, where suddenly there are 100,000 individuals, all of a sudden they are going to pay attention.
That's
because you also have the rule of what I call the rule of momentum.
Yeah.
Because if 100,000 people vent their spleen to 10 people, suddenly you've got a problem with 1 million people.
Well, yes, there's that. But also, I think they've hit on what the ISPs are really interested in that the margins are so slim that it's really hard to just give anyone some sort of a meaningful discount when it comes to an individual. But when you employ collective bargaining at this scale, all of a sudden it becomes a bit of a big deal.
But really,
they're actually reducing their overheads by signing on 100,000 people on one account instead of 100,000 people on a single account.
Are you telling me that the wholesale price of this is too high? Are the ISPs being charged physically too much to provide the service?
If you compare what ISPs are paying here in Perth or in Australia compared to what ISPs are paying anywhere else in the world, you will find that they are being charged a significant amount more than what they are being charged around the world.
The Australia tax at work. Here we are in Australia, so let's rip everybody off.
Yes.
What is it about Australia and bloody rip-offs? I mean, seriously, why do all these companies look at Australians and say, let's rip them off? And more importantly, why are we muggins enough to pay it?
Well,
we need to start tipping some tea in the Swan or something, mate.
Well, I'm not too sure if tea in the Swan's going to help as much, but I think going down this path, and especially with the ACCC ruling recently, where the NBN will have to start paying penalties when they stop meeting demands, when they stop meeting expectations. So I think
NBN or ISPs?
NBN. So you know how when we hear there are problems, and almost always those problems come back to the NBN either not having enough technicians to meet demand when it comes to installs and repairs, or if they're charging too much for their CVCs or the connections for ISPs to get to
CVCs. Come on, mate. What's your acronyms? What's that mean?
I don't know exactly, but I know it is a word that gets all the ISPs upset because they are paying way too much for it. It is essentially a product that a ISP
Why didn't they
buys.
arc up and say we're not going to pay it?
Yeah, good luck with that. This is the NBN code we're talking about.
Yeah, well,
it's been mandated that they've got to go ahead and use this system. If they don't use it, tough luck.
But then hang on a second, the government's in contravention of its own trade regulations if it mandates it uses a system which is inherently excessively expensive. Mate, all of them could pull it on with the government. Absolutely.
I'm quietly confident that there is something in the wings that may happen that could spell trouble for the NBN.
I'm just talking about revolution here.
Yeah.
I'm going to break out my Tracy Chapman record. Good day, Kevin.
Hi there. I've just got a question for Ben.
Yes.
Where do you get, is it the TTFN,
FTTN, yeah, fibre to the node. Yep.
Now, with me, and because I also look after a mother as well,
Yep.
she's got to have a care alert. Now, we're in the process of getting that. We'll have that by end of this week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know if we can have a power supply backup for that type of network?
Yes, you will have to contact the NBN and let them know you do need some sort of power backup.
What they're saying no, you can't.
Okay. If you have a look at the equipment that is connecting the NBN service to your home, you'll notice that it plugs into the wall, right? And there's power coming out of the wall going into the NBN gear. You can get what's called an uninterruptible power supply. You can get these from all your big box stores, maybe $150 to $200 for a decent UPS, and you simply use that to power your NBN gear. So if the power does go out, you've at least got about 30 minutes of runtime before the power completely gives out. It really depends on the size of the UPS and the size of the current.
Kevin's mum has one of those care alert bracelets. She can't afford to have the power go down at all. She has to be on backup constantly.
Yep. So it would be a good idea to get an IT professional in or talk to somebody at a local computer store and working out how much power the NBN gear needs and how much time you want to have it run for. So if it's a 4-hour blackout,
you've got to have full power.
You've got to have full power for that 4 hours.
What I actually need it for, she's going to be getting it like a mobile system.
Yep.
Now, I would need to keep that on constant charge.
Oh, a mobile system? So it's battery powered?
Yes, a mobile system.
Right. And so this care alert, it uses the mobile phone network to communicate?
Yes.
Perfect.
From what I can gather, it's just like a mobile phone.
Ah, well.
But I would have to have power supply to be able to charge that up.
All right. And how long does the battery usually last? Do you know? For your mobile phone device?
Well, at the moment, we haven't got one.
Yep.
But we're supposed to be getting it at the end of the week.
Excellent.
Now, because it's got to be on 24/7.
Yes.
I would say you might get a day out of it, 2 maybe at the most.
All right. So if there's a blackout for a day, you'd still be all right. Because the power would come back on, it'll start charging again, and you should be good. But, again, using a UPS is probably a good idea. So if the power blacks out for more than a day, you've still got power to charge your Medicare device.
And, Kevin, once you got the system, if you have any questions then, give Ben a buzz back. Because, of course, some of the questions he's asking now are questions you'd have to know from the equipment.
That's right.
And dare I say it, one thing that's definitely need to do, once you get the equipment for your mother, make sure you read all the pamphlets that go with it.
Yeah, this is not a time to skip the instructions.
No, read the instruction manual, mate. Thank you very much for that. By the way, if you'd like to have a chat to Ben Aylett, 922 118 882 our number.
10 questions.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to.
First available helper.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Print image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in.
This is Perth Tonight with Chris Ilsley.
He's the man who knows about technology, Ben Aylett. BenAylett.com is a website, 1L, 2 T's.
That's right.
In Aylett, he's identified by his Hawaiian shirts. And, of course, that's where you'll also find all of his contact information. This business with NBN and the idea, and this is also about using a collective. So, therefore, what happens is you're almost forming a cooperative, aren't you? You're almost becoming a sub-ISP to a certain extent.
To a certain extent, yes. It is possible to become a sub-ISP or some sort of cooperative ISP, but that does involve messing with licenses and organisations, that sort of thing. But
that's effectively what you're doing here, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you're as a collective and saying, okay, if you want to be our ISP, NBN, what can you do for us?
Well, it's not so much NBN, what can you do for us? It's more like Telstra, Optus,
No,
TPG,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, what can you do? Yeah.
So you turn around to the ISPs and say, right, we're talking NBN, what can you do for us?
That's right. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing who actually picks this up. Who is going to be the first ISP to win
so it's basically
100,000 people?
It's almost going to be a case of tendering, really, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm actually really excited to see what happens.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be awesome.
And how much it's going to stir people into action.
Yep. And I reckon Nine Saver, I think they've got about 80,000 people on board at the moment.
Yeah.
They're looking for another 20,000, of course. But
they'll probably end up with more than that. By the way, what's the website? Right. If you want to sign up to this, you can.
Yes. It is not just look for Nine Saver.
Nine Saver.
Nine Saver. Yeah. You supply your email address and you register.
Yep.
And they give you tips along the way. So there's things like little tips to help save on your NBN plan anyway. But once they get 100,000 people together, they're going to go into bat.
Your experience with the NBN, are people being a little bit more amenable to it? Is it improving?
Well,
has the kick in the bum for the ISPs to stop making claims and putting false expectations in people's heads? Is that working to the extent that somebody might look at an ISP plan and say, well, okay, at least they're being half honest about what we're going to get?
Yeah. It feels like that they are getting their act together. And to be honest, we only hear about it when it goes wrong. When it goes right, not many people call in to say, hey, NBN's working fantastic. That's all I got to say, thanks very much, and they hang up. That doesn't happen very often at all.
Is it working fantastically very often? I suppose that's it's a difficult question to answer, I know. But what's been the feedback that you've got from people?
The feedback for the people
overall,
that have it, for the people that have it working, overall, they love it. Because you're not having to deal with that terrible buffering that we used to deal with when it comes to things like Netflix or YouTube. There's some people who are in really, really bad areas with ADSL services where they'd be getting maximum about 5 or 6 megabits per second, which was barely enough to get anything done as far as video goes. And downloading music that was slow and just getting work done on the internet.
What about the number of people who don't have physical connections, as in they don't use a PC or something like that to hook to the internet? They're people who are wireless and on the go.
Yep.
Is that liable to be a factor going forward as well?
Everything's going to be a factor. So everyone's talking about 4G and maybe 5G replacing NBN.
Yeah.
I don't think it will replace the NBN where
What
people
about
still
what
want
comes beyond that? I mean, we're talking about 4 and 5G now. I'm guessing at some point, I don't know when, but I figure it's coming at some point down the fact that we're talking about 6G, 7G,
yeah, what
8G.
does the future
I mean,
hold?
how far down the track, I don't know. How long is a piece of string? I also don't know in this particular instance, but I think the question is probably worth asking.
We are seeing some developments when it comes to dealing with radio. So at the moment, we've got things called beamforming, which allows a router or a wireless device to actually try and tune the antennas on it. So it's multiple antennas, and it will actually tune the antennas to try and push the wireless signal in a certain direction. So it will know where a device is, and it'll try to pinpoint that device with the wireless signal. This means it's going to have a stronger signal, there's going to be less interference, and at the end of the day, more reliable and faster connections. So there's that sort of technology. There's also artificial intelligence or machine learning, which will eventually be employed in this.
Yep.
And the technologies that we're seeing in development will somehow be adapted to various applications. So it could be cybersecurity, it could be financial services, it could be things as simple as games. We're seeing everything being applied, and people are trying different technologies and trying them different ways to see what sticks.
I'm guessing that there are probably technologies we haven't even thought about that are being trialled.
That's what I'm most excited about.
And that's one of the... Whilst you're excited, it's also one of the big problems, isn't it? Because when we plan for the future, we're kind of planning for a future going in a direction that we're not quite sure of which way.
Yeah.
We know it's going forward. We know whatever we're talking about means essentially, put simply, we're going to be able to do far more with less and less and less.
Yeah.
Because that's basically how technology has evolved.
Yep.
But when we look at the kind of technology that we're into now, it must be getting harder and harder to predict how that's going to develop and how it's going to apply to what we've got.
In some cases, yes, it's really hard. So we might see something like quantum computing, and it's really hard to grasp on how it's going to be used to benefit humanity in general. But then we look at things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, where we're teaching machines how to do pattern recognition, and they're able to process images a lot like humans do. And so we can see how that's going to be applied to things like autonomous vehicles, where they'll be able to look at street signs and read them and say, that is a speed limit sign, or that's a stop sign, or that's
Will those signs read the same way they do now?
Yeah.
Or will they have something like a barcode, for example?
Well, if you can get a computer to read human signs, why change the signs? So
True.
Yeah. So,
true. Yep. True.
So what we're trying to do, instead of us adjusting our behaviour to fit technology, we're getting technology to fit our behaviour or our environment, and that's the way technology should go. And that's the ideal way. So that's one of the exciting things I noticed when we went from desktop computers to tablets, to the iPad. So we went away from using a mouse and a keyboard to simply holding a flat slate and then poking an icon, which is a lot more intuitive as far as interaction goes. And you know it's intuitive because a kid will pick up an iPad and use it.
Yeah, yeah. That's what made it so functional, though.
That's right.
G'day, Richard.
G'day, guys. Do you remember about 2 odd months ago I gave you a call about hooking the smart tallies up to the modem, cables, etc. up in the roof?
Yeah, how'd it go?
Awesome. Jumped up on the weekend, spent a few hours up there, hooked both the tallies up, heaps better. Netflix, YouTube, the whole lot.
Fantastic. All from the one remote too.
Yeah, and so we hooked up to NBN and got the new modem, the white-looking modem thing from Telstra.
Yep.
So ran the cables, Cat6 cables, ran them through the roof, etc. Plug them into the modem, back at a tally, and it's much better, heaps better.
Outstanding, Richard. Good to hear that it's worked out.
So anybody out there having a listen, take the time. It's well worth it, yeah.
Beautiful.
Well worth the effort, yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Richard. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
Actually, the weekend gone by is probably not a bad weekend to spend in a roof cavity either.
You're right.
They tend to be warmer.
I keep thinking I've got to go up and get a few things done up there, but it's always too hot and I just don't want to.
Yeah, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually half bearable.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
I might have a few things to do this weekend.
Hey, here's a hypothetical for you. Bring a bit of bring a bit of science fiction into play.
Okay.
Do you ever fear the Skynet scenario, a la the Terminator movies, you know, where it becomes self-aware and decides, don't need these people anymore?
It's a possibility. So it's something that a lot of the big thinkers in technology, so Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and a lot of other people who do this sort of high...
Some of these people are quite eccentric.
Well, yes.
I mean, Elon Musk, you could never describe him as an ordinary fella.
No.
I mean, you know, he's not the kind of bloke you just sit with and have a general chat down the pub.
He makes electric cars...
tightly wound or what?
Yeah, he makes electric cars and trucks that outperform anything else on the road, and he launches rockets. The dude is a genius, and I'm not too sure if he's a genius technically, but he's certainly a genius when it comes to thinking of projects and executing them, and also when it comes to selling. He is a master salesperson. I'd say pretty close to Mr. Jobs. I'd say he's as enigmatic as Steve Jobs.
Interesting analogy there.
I'm Gareth Parker from the morning program, where Deputy PM Michael McCormack suggested the divide between the city and the bush was colouring our understanding of the law.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to.
First available helper.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Print image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
This is Perth Tonight with Chris Ilsley on 882 6PR.
And Ben Aylett's here talking technology. By the way, if you'd like to have a chat to Ben, you can do that. 9221 882, the telephone number. Now, that other chestnut raises its head.
Yes.
Cyber security. That's just ongoing, isn't it?
It is ongoing because it is such a lucrative business, I guess, for the bad guys. They're actually making money hand over fist. So what we've got are a few tools at our disposal. I didn't quite manage to finish it from last week, but if we just make our passwords much longer, it's going to be so much harder for the bad guys to crack. Now, there is a trick in making
Mind
a
you,
long password easy to remember.
Permission to speak, sir. Can I just raise an objection with some companies?
Yes.
They actually limit the number of characters you can have in a password.
That's right, yes.
Well, that sucks. They shouldn't do that.
Tell me about it. Yeah, it is absolutely wrong how some companies might try and sort of limit a password length or password strength. And it's just nuts how they think they can get away with it. They should
Well,
be.
they do get away with it because they limit it. And then what happens is somebody then has a password that goes awry and it's, oh, too bad, so sad, sorry about that.
Yep. To an extent, they get away with it. But there are sections of the cybersecurity community who actually hold them up, point and laugh. So they are actually, the light is shone on really bad cybersecurity practices when they try to put them in place. So they do wind up finding themselves in arguments with cybersecurity experts who are wickedly intelligent.
Yep.
And they're quite happy to have an argument. So,
are we going to need at some point some sort of regulation to specify, for example, people running websites to specify minimum levels of security? For example, saying, well, you can restrict the least number of characters people can have in a password, but you cannot restrict the most number of characters, things like that.
In a roundabout way, we're headed down that path. So it's not so much you will have these sorts of passwords allowed on your websites. It's more like cybersecurity, and because you're looking after people's personally identifiable information, PII, it is your responsibility to make sure it is kept safe. Now, how you keep it safe is up to you. And so they're going to hopefully do a bit of thinking and go, hang on a sec.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be doing the right thing.
It's a good idea. G'day, Des.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good.
Ben, how are you tonight?
Very well, Des. What's up, mate?
I have a tricky question for you. Voice command computers, like laptops and that.
Yep.
Do you know anything about them?
Well, yeah, we have them. They're everywhere.
Yeah. What it is, I'm blind.
Yes.
And I'm about to try and get stuck into this new world of electronics. And sort of in the process of sorting a few things out now.
Wonderful.
And I was just wondering what was available on that. Because I want to start doing my own accounts and things like that.
Oh, okay. Doing accounts, that's going to be interesting. I'm not too sure exactly how that's going to work, but there are things called screen readers. So they do actually have applications that are designed for people who don't have full sight. And
yeah, I had a couple of programs on an old computer I had here.
Yep.
Which weren't really what you'd call successful.
Yeah, they are out there. I do remember a few years ago, I went and visited the guys at IINet, and there was a lady who was doing customer service as well as customer accounts, and she was legally blind, 100% gone. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And she had in one ear the telephone conversation going on. In the other ear, she was listening to the screen reader coming off the computer. And this was reading text at an unbelievable clip. I just could not make sense of it because it was being read that fast. And she was navigating through pages. So it is possible, and it can be done.
See, my phones are all set up for it because I use Apple phones.
Perfect. Yeah, they're great with that.
Oh, they're brilliant with voice command and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And voice read and all that. I've just actually had a new, I think they're called an SE, Apple SE.
Oh, the iPhone SE, yes.
Yeah, which is supposed to be very, very good.
That's great.
Given to me through my courier.
That's nice.
Yeah, everything's a bonus, mate. Which I've got to change over from my current iPhone, all my stuff.
Yep.
But I've gone on to the NDIS, and I want to start doing the self-managing my own life.
Yep. Look, I'm sure there are people out there who know this area a lot better than I do, and they should be able to help you out. So it's not really my forte, but I do know the technology is out there. I've seen it in place. but I'm quite not at that level where I can assist you to the level I'd like.
What would you suggest Des did?
Get in touch with people who are able to cater with vision impaired people.
Would the Association for the Blind be a good start?
That'd be one of the first places I'd go.
All right. Thank you very much
Chris.
for that, Des. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Some of the stories, though, some of the technology now is quite amazing, isn't it?
It is. It is.
If you can just simply talk, that makes it. Sometimes it comes down to that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can you talk? Yes. Well, there won't be a problem. It's all going to work. It's going to work beautifully.
Yeah, and that's another thing we might be looking forward to with as far as future technology goes. So we've already got the Google Home, we've got the Apple HomePod, and we also have the Amazon Echo.
Yeah,
and these devices are just fantastic when it comes to hands-free computing or environmental computing, as we call it.
Yeah,
where it's just working with the environment around you, just shouting out commands.
Yeah.
Some of the skills that these devices are picking up and they're being programmed for are actually really very useful.
Yeah, that's it.
So I'd encourage looking at that too.
G'day, John.
G'day, and g'day, Ben.
G'day, John.
G'day, mate. Couple of quick questions. Oh, glad to hear your voice is better.
Oh, yeah. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I'm looking at upgrading my Microsoft Word and Excel and that.
Yeah.
And getting a bit confused when you look around at places for the 365, one 365,
yep,
varying from $27 to $127, and saying it's an indefinite thing. How good is it, or am I going the wrong way, value for money?
Value for money wise, I'm actually a big fan of Office 365. It is still a Microsoft product. It's still legitimate. Instead of me paying $300 or $400 or $500 for a package, I just pay a monthly subscription, and I reckon it's the way to go. So $90 a year, and that'll get you sorted out. I think that's the way to go.
Beautiful, John. Thank you very much for that. We're out of time now. Ben, thank you.
No worries, Chris. Thanks for having me again.
We'll have a chat next week.
Catch you then.
Carl Langdon here. I want to tell you about one of my favourite...